everybody. We are standing here with Scott from Flying Frog Games.
Yep.
We're going to talk about all the amazing things you've brought with, and it's a big show for you guys. Big news, cool stuff. So tell us all about it.
Well, Dawn, it's great to be here talking to Beasts of War. First, I just want to stop and say how much we love Beasts of War. We're big fans, and so it's great to be able to talk to you.
We love the games, so it's a win-win.
Oh, yes, mutual fandom is the best kind. So we're really excited to be able to tell you about some of the new stuff we're doing for Shadows of Brimstone. Obviously, Shadows of Brimstone was a huge Kickstarter for us, and it did so well that it unlocked all these stretch goals, and it just created a mountain of material, a whole product line. And it's so much stuff that even now we're still just finishing it. Yeah. And so finishing up that last bit of stuff, it's generating a lot of content that will be released to retail over time. So even if somebody missed out on the Kickstarter, there's still this huge product line that's coming out over time. Also, I'll say, when we say we're finishing with this stuff, it doesn't mean we're done with it. Right. Oh, there's many more ideas we have. But, you know, we're finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel of all of those stretch goals and things that we unlocked during the Kickstarter. So that's all I mean by that. Awesome. And then beyond that, I will also tell you a little bit about our next project, which we just revealed here at Gen Con. So first of all, let's talk about what we're showing at Gen Con right now. We have our brand new Tradera Otherworld Deluxe expansion. You can see it here behind us. And so last year we released the Caverns of Cinder, which was a new Otherworld expansion. It had Lava Men as a new enemy, new miniatures. It had the whole Caverns of Cinder tile set where you can play in this other world that's this kind of hellscape of lava and flames and alien architecture. And the flip side of that was, of course, a whole new set of mine tiles. So it was a nice, expansion for people, and they could, get a taste of a whole nother world, and it's a good thing. Mm-hmm. But when we looked at doing the second one, Tradera, we had generated during the Kickstarter a bunch of different type of Traderan units. So there's, the standard Legionnaire guys, there's heavy weapon guys that are armored up, and they've got big grenades that they throw, and they're very powerful, kind of heavies. There's also lieutenants that lead them, and there's different types of lieutenants, mutant lieutenants, communications officers, and close combat melee lieutenants. And then also mutants, because the world of Tradera is this war-torn alien planet where they're embroiled in this massive planetary world war, and all of their weapon technology is based on Darkstone. And so because of that, it's a lot of radiation. So all of the suits that they wear, they have breath masks, and they're sealed kind of armor suits. But sometimes that armor gets torn or ripped in the heat of battle, and then they get mutated. And so the mutants start off looking like Legionnaires, but then just rip right out of their suit with huge tentacle arms and tentacle legs, and who knows what monstrosities lie underneath the helmets. So, we realized that it would be a big win to kind of group all those different types of guys into one set. But we thought, is this crazy? I mean, how can we get that in one box? But the box is just chock full. It feels like about 4 bricks in there, and it has so much. It has all those different enemy types I talked about, plus the entire Tradera Otherworld set of tiles, and on the back side is a whole new set of mine stuff. So this is a mega, enormous expansion. We called it a deluxe expansion, and it has a higher price point. It's going to be $80 MSRP for US. Mm-hmm. And as opposed to Caverns of Cinder was a $50 US. Mm-hmm. So it costs $30 more, but you get so much new stuff that, entire decks of new cards. Wow. So lots and lots of new content, new enemies, and all that good stuff. And it's coming out in the fall, officially, to retail. We actually flew in copies early, air freighted for Gen Con, so we'd have a big surprise. We love that kind of thing.
Gotta love Gen Con.
Yeah, we're like big kids, and it's like there's nothing. It's like Christmas morning when Gen Con opens up, and people are like, oh, what are they going to have? And so we were really excited to surprise people with Tradera, and we're running very low on it because it's Sunday. It's day 4 of Gen Con, but never fear, this will be in stores this fall. Awesome. We're showing off some other sneak previews because, again, we want it to be like Christmas morning. Right. So here at the show, actually, we have preview versions of, I don't know if you can see these guys, but there's 6 new heroes: the Drifter, the Orphan, the Jargono Native, the Frontier Doc, the Prospector, and the Cowboy. And so each of these are new hero classes, but they come with the miniatures as well. So each one has I mean, like the Frontier dock. It has both the male and female miniature of the Frontier dock. All the the large character card, all the cards associated with them, their starting upgrades, their gear, and all of that stuff. Plus their upgrade chart, so they can level up, and a rules sheet that covers everything, and tokens, that come with them too. And each of those guys has these things. So these are $16.95. We have them here at the show. We'll have them later. We like to offer this stuff if we can to people who can't make it to Gen Con.
Oh, and they love you for it because, there are the haters as well. Yes. Lloyd.
Whoa, you're naming names. So we'll try to put those up for a limited preview on our website as well, in case you weren't able to make it to Gen Con. And then I'm not sure yet exactly how these will be sold in retail. It's such an early preview that we haven't worked out all the details of the packaging and all of that stuff. But they'll be available in the future. Nice. And then other sneak preview stuff we have here, the Undead Outlaws and the Undead Gunslinger. It's pretty self-explanatory. They're undead gunslingers, which is pretty cool. The Sandkraken, which is a double XL, huge, very, very Cthulhu-like monster. It's like an enormous, octopus that's churning through the desert, coming up under the land. It's like a land squid or something. Belial, the last of the Shadow Kings, he is an enormous and really detailed model. He turned out so great. We're so happy with him. All of his armor is very ornate and detailed. So he's basically a Cinder-themed villain, and he's like kind of the king of hell, like this enormous Shadow King. And putting him next to an actual human, bandito or a lawman or something is just insane. He would be this gargantuan foe you have to fight. So it's mind-blowing as far as an enemy. He's definitely the big bad. The Swamp Raptor, which is a dinosaur basically in the swamps of Jargono, and he's a ton of fun. We sold out of him on the second day because I think either we just didn't bring enough or they're super popular. Yes. The Flesh Stalker, who's an evil alien scientist, and his flesh drone minions. So he comes through the portal with his minions, and these little minions have sacks and satchels and little man catcher devices and knives. And they do his bidding. So he comes through the portal and it's like him. He selects somebody, maybe a helpless, bandito or something like that. And he's like, me? And then the minions run out and start lopping off limbs and shoving them in their bags, or just grabbing them with the man catcher, and they kidnap somebody and take them through the portal to have horrible alien experiments done on them. So it's, excuse me. There's a lot of new missions and new cards and entire new decks associated with him. It's a lot of fun. And lastly, the Allies pack, Allies of the Old West. And this is something where during the Kickstarter, people were so excited about this idea because you can get allies to join you in your quest. So you have your hero posse, but what is life without a faithful dog at your side? Exactly. So it has the faithful dog, it has the pack mule, it has henchmen that you can hire, and also a blacksmith. So these are all allies you can take with you on your adventures. Each one of these allies has a unique upgrade chart, so they can actually go up in stats and get better new abilities and things like that, and also a unique mutation chart. So your pack mule can have 2 back ends or 2 front ends. 2 front ends, you have to feed them twice as much. Yeah.
And you never know what direction they're going to go.
No. I think in circles. And the henchmen, they're very expendable. So they're like red shirt ensigns from Star Trek or something like that. Basically, you take them with you, and when something bad happens, like you get a horrible darkness card or something, you can try to cancel it by sending in the henchmen, where you're like, this looks very bad. Buford, get in there, check it out. And so they have a chance. They can cancel it, but horrible things may happen to them. And so we have an enormous chart of horrible deaths for the henchmen. So it's, acid drops from the ceiling and all of your flesh is just burned from your body or whatever. Jason, who's the designer, was talking about how, really to have a positive gameplay experience, you don't want these horrible things to befall your actual hero. Right. But once he introduced the notion of these expendable henchmen, he was unleashed as far as,
So wait, now they can happen to somebody?
Exactly. Okay. And so he just spent days going, yes, here are the horrible things. And in actual gameplay, like when we were playtesting it, it's so much fun because it's hilarious, and you just end up, hiring a bunch of henchmen to take with you each time, and it's like, get in there, buddy. These guys have to be like, it's not worth it. So this is a lot of the the kind of sneak previews and stuff that we're selling here at the show, and there'll be future expansions that will come to retail. And then lastly, I wanted to tell you about our next big thing. So we had a little event at our booth on Friday afternoon, and we revealed our next project. And normally we don't do that kind of thing, but we're really excited about it. We have a lot of Shadows of Brimstone fans, specifically at Gen Con, and we thought, how cool would it be to tell the fans first? And like, instead of some press release where they hear it on whatever news site that they frequent, what if we could actually have a conversation? So the moment that rabid fans hear about it, it's an interactive discussion, and they can ask all the burning questions. And so we did it, and it was fantastic. Everybody was super excited. Lots of photos and videos and all this good stuff.
All right, but what is it?
It's called the Forbidden Fortress, and it's within the Shadows of Brimstone universe, using the same engine, and completely compatible 100% with all the expansions and the original Shadows of Brimstone core sets. But it's a new core set where instead of the Old West, it takes place in feudal Japan. And so I have a few pieces of art here, which I will pull out. So this right here is concept art of feudal Japan. So you can see it's very, very inspired of the architecture of the time and the location, and also the colors, the palettes, all of that kind of stuff. So the Japan side, as opposed to delving into the mines in Brimstone and adventuring there outside of town, you're playing in Japanese castles, temples, courtyards, all of that stuff. But it's a forbidden fortress, and when you enter, you find all this stuff is destroyed. It's like it's been ransacked, and it's because demons have come through and destroyed the city. So now you're fighting your way through demons and creatures from other worlds that have come through to our world in feudal Japan.
Right.
So the heroes in this core set, there's 4. It's very analogous to the original Shadows of Brimstone core sets, but the heroes are the samurai warrior, of course, the ninja, the assassin. There's the sorceress. We wanted to add kind of a fantastical element to it. So she's a magic user and, very, priestess, Japanese priestess kind of thing. And then lastly, the traveling monk. You can't have it without the traveling monk. Yeah. And that gives a really good spread of different character classes and kind of a solid party, build out. And then who are these guys going to be fighting? I have some concept art here. So... well, I left too many of these here. All right. So first off, we have tentacles. Both of the original core sets had tentacles, and we thought, okay, if it's an unspeakable horror game, you definitely have to have some tentacles. But these new tentacles actually look different because we wanted them to be unique, and they're acidic tentacles. So you can see that at the ends of each one, it actually has a mouth, like a lamprey mouth, ringed with teeth, and it's drooling acid. So these are very, very nasty versions of tentacles. They're acidic tentacles.
Nothing good will come of that, I'm sure.
No. And we delved into Japanese mythology, traditional stuff, but then kind of give our own spin on it. We wanted to do something new with it as well. But these guys right here are very traditional Japanese mythology. They're Tengu. They're basically winged birdmen, like bird warriors. And you can see they even fight with samurai swords. So they're not, uncivilized beasts. They're like a race of birdmen. Right. And this is very, very Japanese historical, mythology. Awesome. These guys might be my absolute favorite. So these are the Dishonored Dead, and they're basically undead samurai. Nice. And, once we had that idea, it was like, okay, this is the game. This is the game. Yeah. And the miniatures for these turned out great. We do actually have, because our sculptor finished several months ago with all of the Shadows of Brimstone stuff for the Kickstarter, he's like, okay, what do you want me to work on next? And we're like, okay, we need to start on the next project. And so he rolled right into it. And now, at the time of our announcement, we actually have the sculpts done for all of the core set miniatures, all the heroes and villains. All right. Again, very, very traditional Japanese mythology. These are Oni, And the Oni are basically large ogres, and we've kept a lot of the very traditional elements of the Oni. They've got red skin and very black hair and fangs and horns, and they wield clubs. But the number one most important thing that you have to have if you're going to make a traditional Oni is tiger pants. So they specifically wear pants made of tiger fur with the stripes. And so we can't mold the tiger stripes into the miniature because it's too small, but we have to trust everyone to paint the tiger stripes.
You will paint accordingly.
Yes, please, please. It's very important. All right, and then we introduce, with this version, this flavor of Shadows of Brimstone, a new class of enemy that's a mini-boss. And so normally you're playing along and you end up fighting kind of the big bad at the end, an epic threat. With this one, here's a kind of characterful enemy, sort of boss character that you can fight along the way, not just necessarily at the very end. So this is our Hurryin Hago, and she is also based very closely on Japanese mythology. So she's kind of a spectral Japanese woman who's in a traditional kimono and flowing robes with very long animated hair, and her hair can actually lash out and attack people. It's barbed at the ends. And in our version here, she's actually using her hair to lift her forward and propel her as though she's flying.
That's cool.
And the model for this turned out very, very cool. And you'll have to show some of those pictures in the case. And last but not least, every Shadows of Brimstone core set needs to have one model that's kind of like the big epic threat, kind of big bad. And for us, we went with the living statue. So he is based on a temple guardian statue, and in Japan they have these all over the place, and they're outside of temples, and they're enormous. And when I went to Japan, I saw some of these guys, and I thought, can you even imagine if this guy came to life? Because, you know, I'm a total geek, and I was playing D&D and all this other stuff, and I was just
imagination, that's what that is.
Yeah, and I'm like, can you even imagine if this guy came to life? How would you even stop him? I mean, he's made of metal, and he's enormous. And so out of that came this idea to have a living statue where he's become animated, and you have to fight this guy. So it's very cool. We're very excited about how the model turned out for this guy as well. I also have, I haven't mentioned the other side. Every one of the core sets, of course, the flip side of the earthly tiles is a set of Otherworld tiles. And so for the Otherworld, for this feudal Japan set, we wanted to have something really different from everything we've done before. And we thought there was a stretch goal that we never unlocked. It was very late in the game during the Kickstarter, and it was for another world called the Belly of the Beast. And all we had was a piece of concept art. You can see it here. And the notion is that you go through the portal and you end up in what you think is some kind of series of caves, but it's very moist, and the floor is sticky and sometimes acidic. And when you touch the walls, they're drippings with goo, and it's really spongy and kind of gross. And you realize you're actually in a living thing, an enormous creature. And this is very much inspired by things like, Inner Space, where you're shrunken down and you're in somebody's body, or Empire Strikes Back, where they fly the Millennium Falcon. Let's land in this cave, and then suddenly they realize they're inside of a giant creature. And so it's that kind of thing where you're fighting off, parasites and worms and these things, and also other enemies that have come through the same portals and become trapped in this creature and now wander the halls and the chambers and the esophagus and all this stuff. And so I'm showing this upside down, I just realized, because it looks right side up to me. No, I was showing that upside down. I will show you here so you can see it's important that the hanging drool chains are not defying gravity. All right, so that is the new thing that we announced.
That is exciting. Now, timing-wise,
we are going to do a Kickstarter for it, and we're going to use all the lessons that we learned in our first Kickstarter to make this one even better and more successful and cooler and streamlined. At the time we did that, we were working in a lot of new areas. We hadn't done the hips plastic like a more model kit type thing for hobbyist gamers. Now we have all that worked out. We found manufacturing partners that do really, really good detail. And so we've nailed all that stuff. We have that taken care of. The pipeline is in place. We work with a resin caster who does just amazing detail for the resin figures. And we have a staff now of full-time sculptor, full-time illustrators. So all these pieces are in place. And now we're able to just really roll full steam ahead with all the pistons firing, as opposed to having to kind of build that infrastructure. And so now we can just go crazy. And so I'm really excited about how this one's going to go. We don't have a specific date that we're starting. We're basically saying fall. We expect that it'll be sometime mid to late October, but the reason why we haven't set a date is we want to be sure that we can finish everything from the previous Kickstarter and then get it sent off to China and out there so they can start tooling molds and print everything to wrap up everything generated in the first one. And once that's out the door and they can take it over and do the months of production, then we can turn our sights on to the Forbidden Fortress full speed ahead and launch the Kickstarter.
Oh my goodness, that's a ton.
It's a lot.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to.
You just haven't been sleeping. That's the problem. Once you remove sleep from the equation, you have so
got
much
all
more
this time. Yeah,
yes,
totally.
yes.
Well, Scott, always a pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely.
Cannot wait to see how that one comes out. We love the games. We love you guys. And we can't wait to see what else is going to come.
Thank you so much. Once again, we're huge fans. Beasts of War.